Part 1. The Window That Never Closed. They say he died in silence. Edward Hopper's body was found slumped beside a half-finished canvas in his Manhattan studio, sunlight falling in thin blades through the window, slicing across the floor like memories that refused to fade. The brush had dried mid-stroke. The subject, as always, sat alone. A woman, facing away. No one knew who she was, or whether she had ever existed. For years Hopper painted the same loneliness, the same corners of quiet. And though the world called him a realist, those who truly looked, who truly saw, whispered a darker truth, that he wasn't painting what was but what had been lost. This is the story of Edward Hopper, a man who chased silence like a shadow, who captured the ache of absence with every brushstroke. But behind every empty diner, every lit window in the dark, lay a life scarred by obsession, regret, and a longing that time never healed. Part 2. Ghosts in Nyack. Edward Hopper was born on July 22, 1882, in the river town of Nyack, New York, a place caught between tides and time. His father, a dry goods merchant, believed in order and pragmatism. His mother, however, encouraged imagination, feeding Edward with books, music, and pictures. Young Edward was a quiet boy, tall, thin, and awkward. He would sit by the Hudson River for hours, sketching ships as they disappeared beyond the horizon, already fascinated by departure. He built his first boat at 15, not to sail but to watch. To float alone, gently drifting into quiet. There was a window in his childhood home that faced west. He would stare through it as dusk fell, watching the sky change colors, from lavender to indigo to black. It was there, he later claimed, that he first saw the world in stillness. Not the world that moved but the one that waited. He would never truly leave that window. Even as a child, Edward painted in layers. The surface was just a veil. Underneath his early sketches, one often finds ghosts. People who were erased, buildings that never stood, entire backgrounds buried in gray. He revised reality like a surgeon, carving away life to find its hollow. Part 3. The Ashcan Fires. At 18, Hopper left Nyack to study illustration in New York City. He hated it. Commercial art is a lie, he once wrote in a letter never sent. He transferred to the New York School of Art, where he studied under Robert Henri, a firebrand of the Ashcan school who preached realism and rawness. "Make your paintings bleed," Henri told him. "Make them ache." Hopper listened. But even among his peers he remained distant. He rarely spoke, often arriving early and staying late, working in the corner while the others joked and smoked. He traveled to Paris in 1906. It should have changed him. The light, the movement, the frenzy of Impressionism, but Hopper resisted. He didn't want movement. He wanted stillness. He painted empty streets, quiet rooms, solitary figures who seemed to wait for something that would never arrive. One day he found a girl sketching beside the Seine. Her name was Marie, red-haired, delicate, her smile an echo of someone he might have dreamed. They met often. She called him Le Fantôme, the ghost. They kissed only once, on a foggy bridge at midnight. Then she vanished. He never mentioned her again. But years later she reappeared, in dozens of his paintings, always in profile, always alone. Part 4. Struggling Light. Returning to New York, Hopper faced failure. He sold no paintings. Worked as an illustrator. Lived in small rented rooms that looked like the ones he painted. In 1913 he sold his first piece, Sailing, for $250 at the Armory Show. It was the only painting he sold for the next decade. Loneliness turned inward. He withdrew. For 10 years he barely spoke to family. His letters became shorter, his palette more severe, muted ochres, grays, bloodless blues. He began to walk the city at night, sketchbook in hand, staring into diners, offices, windows lit from within. Searching for, what? Connection? Witnesses? Ghosts? In 1923 he met Josephine Nivison, a fiery, sharp-tongued artist who refused to be a muse. "You stare like you're stealing something," she told him. "Maybe I am," he replied. They married the following year. She became his only model, his fiercest critic, his archivist. Their love was volatile. They fought often. She claimed he kept parts of himself locked away, parts even he couldn't find. But she stayed. Always. Even as his silences deepened. Part 5. Rooms That Remembered. In the 1930s, Hopper's fame grew. He painted Room in New York, Automat, Chop Suey Hotel Room, all featuring solitary figures, mid-gesture, wrapped in light that seemed both warm and accusing. Critics hailed him as a master of isolation, a chronicler of American stillness. But Hopper denied any symbolism. "I just paint what I see." Still, questions swirled. Why were his figures always silent? Why did no one ever look at each other? Why did every open door feel like a trap? Some said he was haunted. That he had seen something, in childhood, in war, in Paris, that he never spoke of. Jo, his wife, once claimed he painted his dreams. He screams in his sleep, she wrote in her diary, but never remembers why. His studio became a shrine of shadow and sunlight, tall windows, empty canvases stacked like tombstones, brushes lined like scalpels. He painted in silence, often from dawn until dusk. He never played music. He never used a phone. When visitors came, he offered only black coffee and silence. Part 6, Nighthawks. In 1942 he painted Nighthawks, his most famous work. A diner late at night. 4 figures. A man and woman back-turned. A solitary man. A server. No one speaks. The street outside is empty. The light inside is blinding. Viewers projected themselves onto it. They saw America's wartime anxiety, urban alienation, fear, desire, the edge of something unspeakable. But Hopper never explained. It's just a diner. Except it wasn't. Jo swore the man in the hat was someone from Edward's past, a brother lost to illness. But Hopper had no brother. Or did he? There are no birth records. Only Jo's note. He won't speak of it. Not even to himself. Part 7, the final canvas. As he aged, Hopper grew thinner, paler, as if he were fading into his own paintings. He and Jo moved to Cape Cod each summer, where he painted motels, gas stations, lighthouses. Places between destinations. Places that waited. In 1957 he stopped painting people. Only rooms. Windows. Beds. Jo once found a canvas turned to the wall. On it, a woman sat by a window staring out. In the reflection, barely visible, a second figure shadowed, watching. Jo never asked. In his final years, Hopper painted only in the mornings. The rest of the day he sat in silence. Once, a neighbor saw him standing in an empty room, staring at the light on the floor for hours. He died in 1967. Jo followed less than a year later. They had no children. No diaries. Only paintings. And silence. Part 8. Legacy of Stillness. Today, Edward Hopper is hailed as one of America's greatest painters. His influence touches filmmakers, photographers, writers. His works hang in the Whitney, the MoMA, the Art Institute of Chicago. But no one has ever found the woman from his paintings. Or the source of his silence. Some say he painted not what he saw, but what he feared. Others claim his works contain hidden codes, maps of memory and regret. And some, late at night standing before Nighthawks, swear the figures have moved. That they're waiting for someone to look just right. That the silence might finally speak.